You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
I'm sitting at dinner on Saturday night with some buddies, and all of a sudden, everyone's phone kind of lights up, and you look down at it, and it's an alert from ESPN that UCLA has hired a new offensive coordinator, and that it's Eric Bieniemy. I believe it was Adam Schefter and Pete Thamel who had it first. Looking at Adam Schefter and his tweet right there says, former Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy is finalizing a 2-year deal to join UCLA staff as its associate head coach / offensive coordinator. Sources tell ESPN's Pete Thamel and me. Of course, that's Adam Schefter. I would imagine, like me, when you saw this news, many of you were pretty surprised. It's always really interesting to figure out, what Eric Bieniemy's next move is going to be. He seems to always dominate, a coaching carousel cycle in the offseason. And the way it ended in Washington is interesting. For what it's worth, he, in an email to ESPN, Bieniemy, noted that it was his choice. He was not, he was not fired in Washington by the Commanders. He has no regrets. I quote, I actually just chose not to stay. Learned a lot, and that is always a good thing. So he wanted to move on. I think what catch people by surprise is him going back to college. And this will be the second time that Eric Bieniemy has gone from the NFL back to college. The first time was in 2011 for the 2011 season. In 2010, from 2006 to 2010, he was with the Minnesota Vikings in a variety of different assistant roles. He left that Vikings position to go to Colorado, where he played football. That's his alma mater, and be the offensive coordinator. And then left there and went to the Chiefs. And then that's when all the success blows up with Patrick Mahomes, wins Super Bowls, conference championships, all of that, and starts to be mentioned for head coaching jobs and whatnot. Ends up with the Commanders as the OC, associate head coach, for one season, and now is going back to college. So look, he's got plenty of experience as a college coach, recruiting, all of that. He's been at UCLA before, from 2003 to 2005. He was at UCLA, running backs coach, and then the last year was also the recruiting coordinator. So from a recruiting aspect, that makes a lot of sense too. But it's a big hire for Deshaun Foster, man, over there in Westwood. And like I said, one that I think caught me and probably just about everybody else by surprise. Now, what does it mean for LSU when UCLA comes here on September 21st? Because I think if it was anybody else, if it wasn't that big of a name, we probably wouldn't talk about it that much, right? Not in the sense that we did with like Deshaun Foster and Chip Kelly leaving and then Deshaun Foster taking over, as the head coach there. And what is that going to mean for the program? But that's a big name. And it's a really successful guy with I think it's 16 years of 16 years of NFL experience. Now, the game's different. I understand. It doesn't always translate. But Eric Bieniemy, in his email that he sent into ESPN, noted that guys who have had the success going from the NFL back to college, noted Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh. And again, all of those are in a head coaching role, and that's probably different. But I'm certainly not going to scoff at a guy bringing 16 years of NFL experience, who's also got plenty of college experience and has been an OC in college before, as well as the highest level of football, coming in, especially when they're on the schedule for the team that I cover. And that's what this is. So what does it mean for LSU? Well, I think when you look at UCLA, and there's not a lot of expectation for them, which is why this hire is intriguing to me, because I think Eric Bieniemy has a chance to have pretty early success there. I mean, y'all, Ethan Garbers has looked good at quarterback for UCLA, especially in that bowl game. He's back. That's a veteran piece that Bieniemy has to work with right there. That's big. They got a couple wide receivers. One of them who was going to enter the transfer portal looked like he was heading to that was Keegan, looked like he was heading to UConn, but has pulled his name out of the transfer portal and is back for UCLA now. I mean, it's not the most wild numbers you've ever seen. That's Keegan Jones I'm talking about, but it's, again, a veteran piece. Jay Michael announced that he's returning as well, and he's foregoing the draft to do that. So, I mean, you have two talented pieces on the outside there at receiver, and then when you look at running back, man, TJ Harden was awesome against USC last year for the Bruins and in the bowl game against Boise State. In that, he ran for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns, over 800 yards in the season. So there's good pieces there for Eric Bieniemy at all 3 levels. So we'll see what the offensive line ends up being for UCLA next year. But when I look at an experienced coach like that, that's something that immediately steps up on my radar, especially when you look at LSU and what they're going to have to be defensively, the improvement that they're going to have to make under Blake Baker. And we all expect them to, but you're going to get that answer very early on when they go face USC out in Vegas and a Lincoln Riley offense. You're going to see how much they have improved through spring and fall camp to that point, and if they're ready, because that offense looks pretty good too, minus Caleb Williams. That doesn't really quite matter right there. And I think Lincoln Riley's kind of shown that too. He's plug and play with a quarterback in his system. So you'll get your answer very early there. But depending on what that happens, how that plays out, what happens to LSU in that ball game, definitely puts the UCLA game more on your radar, knowing who's going to be calling plays for the Bruins and knowing that he does have veteran pieces on that offense returning who shouldn't, I should say, be phased, in their 3rd and 4th years in college football. So, look, Deshaun Foster wants more of an NFL, wants to run more of an NFL type ship over there at UCLA. And to do so, he went and got an offensive coordinator with 16 years of NFL experience, who's now making his 2nd trip back to college. I'm fascinated to see how that plays out, and we'll get an up close and personal look at it on September 21st when UCLA comes to Death Valley.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.